Hi, this video is going to be about capstans and solenoid switches. I have some right here in this bowl, which you can see above, and also tape players, because what I've been doing for the past few months is taking apart tape players and removing all the interesting bits. Most of them have been capstans and solenoid switches, and also the recording heads. That's for a different video. This one is about the little capstans that I want to use to make a chime. And I'm going to use solenoid switches to ring the chime. So I just wanted to give a short demonstration of what a capstan is using my tape player. So this is a simple one. Obviously I didn't take this one apart because it still works. But inside you see this little pokey outy thing? That's the capstan. And when I press the play button, it moves the head up along with this pinch roller. And the pinch roller does just as you would think. It pinches the tape between the rubber surface and the capstan. So what you're seeing here is the capstan, and below ground is the flywheel assembly. This is the flywheel, and this is the flywheel pulley, which has a little groove in it, as you see, and that's what connects to the motor pulley. So the motor spins this flywheel, and the capstan spins. As you see, it's sort of like a gyroscope. It keeps the capstan spinning. It doesn't. There's not a sharp stop when the motor stops running, and that's why we have this flywheel to sort of smooth out the transition between starting the motor and stopping the motor. So this pinch wheel here, the pinch wheel isn't actually motorized. It's just sort of riding along, just making sure that the tape makes contact between the flywheel and between the capstan and the rubber, making sure that the tape rides smoothly over the two heads. So I found a whole bunch of these flywheels. These are just a few of them. In the cheaper tape players, the flywheel is pretty light. This is probably barely an ounce. And the nice heavier ones, the flywheels, good heavy metal things. This one's kind of heavy. This is probably 2 ounces. But the ones that I've chosen to make a chime with are they ring, and I'll show you them in a few minutes. Before I do, I want to introduce the solenoid switch. Basically, beneath this blue tape here is a coil of wire, and if you see around this little pin, there's a little spring there, and the pin just sits loosely inside that tube. So if you introduce a charge, positive, negative, it creates an electromagnet, and it pulls this little pin right in there, and it can happen very rapidly. So in a contraption like this, basically it's just used to ratchet those gears, make sure that everything's snapping in and out exactly on time. What I plan to do is take one of my big flywheel assemblies, place it right next to the solenoid, so that when it pops up, it just nicks the side and rings the chime. I just noticed it because when I was taking these things out and playing with them, I noticed that they'd kind of ring. These don't because they're all plastic, but the nice big metal ones do. So that's the assembly, or that's the plan for the assembly. And now I will show you how I assembled it. Ta-da! Okay, a couple days have elapsed, and I, at this point, have built the case for the chimes, and this is just the last little bit. It's a cover for the solenoid, because I had to mount it on the outside of the case, and I didn't think it looked nice. So you'll see in the next clip I've mounted it, and I'll show you what the pin looks like. The solenoids I used for this are a bit larger. There's the bit itself and how it fits through a hole in the side of the case, and there's my little cover. I'm still working on the contraption even as we make this video, so it may not look like this at the very end, but this is how I figured it out at the beginning. See, you just complete the circuit and it pulls the pin and it makes a ringing sound, just the way I planned. In the background you'll see there's another chime and another solenoid ready to be configured. And I just wanted to kind of demonstrate it for you outside of the box, because I'm just fascinated with this. I love watching. Pull it in. Shoop. There it goes. Now, since the sound of the chimes is so delicate, I've glued on the bottom of the flywheel a couple little transducers, piezo elements, and feeding the lines through a hole in the bottom of the theater. I'm calling it a theater now. It just looks like a theater to me. And it goes to another box, which I built, that houses the audio mixer for the two microphones, basically, and the batteries and the triggers for the solenoids. And I just wanted to include a few minutes of me soldering wires, because that's entertainment. Actually, I'm not going to subject you to the hours it took. But I did want to take a few minutes to talk about the electronic part of this project.
because I'm sure there's some electronics engineers out there who are looking at this video and wondering what are all those wires doing in that box. And basically, I discovered that these little solenoids can operate on just 4.5 volts, and I just used a 9-volt battery, and I connected up a momentary switch to it, and just pushed the button, and the solenoid fires. So that's how I solved that problem. I do have an idea for another way to trigger these, but that's for a later video. Actually, I'm going to pause right here because this is the very moment when I discover if my idea is going to work or not. So watch.
Yeah, so these little solenoids are okay. Like, what if I get them adjusted just right? They make a pretty little ringing sound thanks to the piezo elements that are glued to the bottom of these flywheels. And it works okay. It's a precious little instrument. I mean, it looks beautiful. I love holding it. I love looking at this, you know, homemade anodized panel. I like how symmetrical it is. But I need to learn more about solenoids. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to make this a 2-part video. And because this is just, you know, push a button, activate, you know, close the connections for the 9-volt, and it closes the solenoid. So it's what I need to learn about is the drivers that are involved in using larger solenoids. Because I have this idea, if I play around with this here on top, you can't probably hear it, but there's a little scratching sound, and it makes more ringing sounds inside. If I attach a solenoid up here, a larger one, that'll give it a good whack. I think that would be the final piece of the puzzle. So, next time.